The legend of Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, is one of the most enduring mysteries in North America. For decades, hunters, researchers, and ordinary people have claimed to have seen this elusive, ape-like creature. From grainy photographs to blurry videos, every new piece of so-called evidence sends a shockwave through the cryptozoology community. But what happens when someone claims to have found the ultimate prize? Not just a footprint, not just a blurry photo, but the actual body of a Bigfoot. One man claims to have done just that and is displaying the corpse at the New York State Fair in Syracuse. Is there any truth to this claim, or is this yet another elaborate hoax designed to fool those who want so badly to believe? Stay with me because we're looking at all the information on this claim in this episode of The Weekly Strange. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Weekly Strange. I'm your host, John F. Murs, author, actor, adventurer. Okay, so look, the normal flavor, so to speak, of this show is to report on the unexplained and the weird. But every so often, I take a slight detour to expose a fraud. I did this back in late March, I think it was late March, with the whole Omar O'Davi silliness where some dude claimed to know a guy who could communicate with marine life. Long story short, he couldn't. And all of the video material that this clown called evidence was actually just stock video in some cases, and other people's videos in other cases that he stuck together to build this storyline around an entirely fictitious character named Omar O'Davi. Interestingly enough, that video has been surging in the last few days, which makes me wonder if this guy who spread the lies initially is back at it doing something new. I need to look into that. Anyway, that brings me to this video. A supposed Bigfoot corpse has been located in the Adirondacks as of October last year, and the guy who found it is now displaying it at the New York State Fair, happening literally right now. So let's dive into this and see what we got here. In the summer of 2025, a stunning announcement rocked the world of paranormal researchers. A self-proclaimed cryptozoologist named Charles Snake Stewart claimed that he had stumbled upon a complete, intact Bigfoot corpse in the rugged forested terrain of the Adirondack Mountains. He named the creature Dack, short for Adirondack, and announced a public exhibition at none other than the iconic New York State Fair. For just $9.31 per ticket, which makes me wonder where he got that price from, but anyway, you could see the indisputable proof that Bigfoot was real. This was the story that was supposed to change everything. But as is so often the case in the world of cryptid hunting, the most incredible claims are built on the flimsiest of foundations. This is a story of deception, bizarre tattoos, and a lack of basic human anatomy, or Bigfoot anatomy for that matter. For years, the Bigfoot community has been plagued by a cycle of sensational claims followed by inevitable debunkings. Hoaxes have become as much a part of the Bigfoot narrative as the actual sightings themselves. But the Dack hoax was different. It wasn't just a blurry photo or a dubious story. It was an attempt to sell the public on a tangible physical body. Now, the man behind this scheme, the aforementioned self-proclaimed cryptozoologist and outdoorsman named Charles Snake Stewart. Side note, I'm just going to break in here for a second. No, you can't use the nickname Snake, okay? Snake is only reserved for Snake Plissken from Escape from New York, all right? I'm just putting it out there, all right? Nobody's allowed to be called Snake. It's just Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. That's it, all right? I'll die on that hill. Anyway, he wasn't who he claimed to have been. Surprise, surprise. Old Snake was supposedly called that because while he was out solo hiking out west somewhere, he got bitten by a rattlesnake. And geez, don't you know it being so far away from civilization, he had to suck the venom out by himself. Cue the whole, whoa, dude. Yeah. Now, Snake's whole approach to finding Bigfoot was to be different. Just, we're not going out, we're not doing wood knocks, we're not doing howls because those aren't effective. Instead, old Snake was going to go into the woods and become one with nature and track the elusive creature that way. Just full camo, face paint, mud, a la Predator, whatever. But okay, I can get behind that because I have much the same thought when it comes to actually searching for these things. But then Snake says that he made the discovery while he was deep in the Adirondacks for a whole month. And here's the best part. He was surviving without fire. Oh yeah. You know what's coming next here, don't you? You outdoor enthusiasts that are watching right now, you know what I'm talking about. 1 month, no fire. This begs the most obvious question of all. Well, gee, Snake, what'd you eat? Did you drag 800 pounds of pre-cooked canned goods into the wilderness? Get that Dinty Moore beef stew? Did you buy MREs in bulk? Because I can tell you that after you eat MREs for a whole month, your digestive tract is going to be wrecked. You would have been medevaced out of there with like a blown bowel or something. Plus the entire forest would have heard you crying out when the constipation got so bad. Trust me. If you don't have fire, you can't cook anything you hunted or fished. And if you're thinking you could forage berries and nuts for a whole month with no adverse effects, that's BS too. You got to have protein. And that means you either cart it in already cooked or you cook with fire. This ain't no sushi joint in Shinjuku. Right here, I was already ready to proclaim this a ridiculous fraud. And the picture of Snake on his website didn't show a dude with like a few extra pounds around his gut. He was already lean, which means that any lack of regular food intake would drop his weight even more. But Snake goes on to say that he found the corpse and then needed help carting it out of the woods. Well, sure he did. He didn't have the strength to lift it after living on dandelions and rainbows for the last month. But more red flags started popping up almost immediately. Well, Snake claimed to be a hardened outdoorsman from Saranac Lake, New York. Cryptozoology researcher Steve Culls, a renowned figure in the field, began digging in just a little bit more to Snake's background. He quickly discovered that the man in the pictures with the corpse had distinctive tattoos on his arm, as you'll see in the pictures that I show of the guy squatting next to the corpse. These tattoos, a key detail that would later blow the lid off the entire operation, didn't belong to any known Bigfoot researcher. Instead, they were linked to a performance artist from Brooklyn named Brian Andrew Whiteley. Whiteley had a history of this kind of thing. He was already known in some art circles for his work exploring themes of deception and public belief. His past projects, including a fake Bigfoot sighting, made him a prime suspect. The name Charles Snake Stewart was a complete fabrication, a persona created to add a layer of authenticity to the hoax. I mean, I guess. But the lies didn't stop there. Snake claimed to be a serious researcher, but a simple investigation revealed more inconsistencies. The phone number he provided for interviews was a Google Voice account, not a landline or a cell phone from his claimed remote location. He was also caught emailing media outlets and other researchers from a hotel business center, a detail that sharply contrasted with his supposed rustic lifestyle. The website he created to promote the exhibition, bigfootsremains.com, was another telltale sign of deception. It was registered in late May 2025, a full 7 months after he claimed to have discovered the body. Why wait so long to secure a website for such a monumental discovery? The answer, of course, is that there was no discovery. But the most damning evidence, the kind that can't be explained away by a simple change of story or somebody arguing, well, that's just your opinion, man, came from the corpse itself. The pictures of Dack were an anatomical and scientific train wreck. For a creature supposedly 8 feet tall and covered in thick brown hair, the body was strangely deflated. It lacked any visible genitalia and had no clear contours of a skeletal structure beneath the skin. It looked, for all intents and purposes, like a cheap Halloween prop that had been thrown out in the rain and left to deflate. Now, anybody that has ever been around a real corpse knows it's not a pretty scene. Real corpses undergo a complex and often messy process of decomposition. There's bloating, insect activity, and fluid seepage. Dack's body was pristine. It looked clean and dry, lacking any of the typical signs of an animal that had been dead for days, weeks, or months. The absence of these biological markers was a glaring red flag for anyone with even a basic understanding of forensic science. Whiteley tried to add a layer of scientific credibility to his fabrication by claiming to have DNA evidence that linked Dack to Neanderthals. But like the rest of his story, this was completely baseless. When confronted with the evidence that he was not a cryptozoologist, but a performance artist with a history of hoaxes, Whiteley didn't even bother to deny it. His response was to simply send back a link so that the investigator could buy a state fair ticket with the bold, unapologetic disclaimer, "No refunds." I mean, it's basically an admission of guilt, a final cynical act of a performance artist who was more interested in the reaction than the reality. The Dack hoax, as we're calling it, isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a long, convoluted history of Bigfoot scams that prey on the public's desire to believe. The most famous of these is the Minnesota Iceman, a supposed humanoid creature frozen in a block of ice that was exhibited at fairs in the 1960s. The promoter, Frank Hansen, claimed to have found the body in Siberia, and it was even examined by renowned scientists. But the Iceman was eventually revealed to be a rubber model, a gruesome prop used to pull in crowds and cash. And then there's the whole Rick Dyer hoax. In 2012, Dyer claimed to have shot and killed a Bigfoot, which he later toured around the country in a refrigerated trailer. His story was widely publicized, and he even claimed to have DNA evidence. The Bigfoot was ultimately revealed to be a rubber suit, a cheap prop used to fleece believers out of their money. These hoaxes, from the Minnesota Iceman to the Dack hoax, follow a similar pattern. They tap into our collective fascination with the unknown. They promise a tangible, irrefutable truth in a world of blurry photos and fleeting glimpses. They're a performance, a cynical play on the public's trust, and a bold-faced attempt to profit from a legend. The reason these hoaxes are so pervasive is simple. They give people something to hold on to. They provide a quick, simple answer to a complex, decades-old mystery. But as this hoax proved, the truth is often far more interesting than the lies. The story of Brian Andrew Whiteley, an artist using the Bigfoot myth to comment on a culture of spectacle and deception, is a fascinating one. It's a reminder that sometimes the real monster isn't a creature in the woods, but the human desire for spectacle. The Bigfoot legend will continue, but so will the hoaxes. The best thing we, as enthusiasts and researchers, can do is to remain vigilant and to demand credible evidence, and to remember that the search for the truth, even if it's a blurry one, is far more rewarding than any cheap fake. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of The Weekly Strange. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. If you really like the content that I'm providing out here, please consider joining the channel as a supporting member. You get access to a lot of pretty cool stuff, new videos early, and other perks as well, including some of my books and stories that I've written over the past 20 some odd years as a professional writer. Also, I'm really close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, like super close, like 14 away, 13 away, something like that. So if you know anybody who digs the paranormal, the weird, and an occasional fraud alert, please let them know to come on out and subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, that is it for this episode. I will see you again very soon on The Weekly Strange. Good night.